Man, you go there. Holy Spirit will help you.
Never underestimate.
I'm not going to be at the Holy Spirit by the Bible seminary because I can't stick to anything. Oh, you can give me a few more minutes. All right, the Gospel of John. That's the last thing. There were videos, we're supposed to view them, and I messed up because I got
We'll watch it.
Now, the Gospel of John is different than all of the other Gospels in that it doesn't follow the general form that Mark set up. And so it's not part of what they call the Synoptic Gospels. There's a lot of the same information in it, but it is related to Jesus Christ mostly, and there's only the one miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 that appears in all of the Gospels. But the big thing about the Gospel of John is it presents the deity of Jesus Christ more strongly than any other of the Gospels. Let me read verse 1 of chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All right, that's the prologue. And the prologue is interpreted for us in verse 14 when it says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we saw His glory, glory as of the only begotten from the Father, full of grace and truth." So when you see the word there, it's capitalized, which it's referring to deity. So it's referring to the person of Jesus Christ. Now, you've heard, in all likelihood, that John is the simple gospel. And it's true. It is a simple gospel, but it is incredibly profound. And we miss the profundity. I want you to see something in the very first verse that underscores that profound nature. The writer here, the Apostle John, who was the close associate to Jesus Christ, he was the one who leaned back on his breast, as you remember, as they shared the Last Supper together. And so they were close in their relationship. And out of that group of 12, there were 3 of those disciples and apostles that Jesus was closest to. And John was one of those. So here's how he writes. In the beginning, I want you to see 2 prepositions. The first is in, translated from in the original language. Which doesn't mean in the beginning 2,004,390 years ago. It's not talking about the identification of numbers. It's not trying to specify a date, but it's talking about the kind of meeting. All right, this was an opportune meeting. This was an intuitive meeting. This was something that had never been experienced before, apparently. So in the beginning was the Word, that was Jesus, and Jesus was with God. Now, that word with is translated from part of a word that has pros in it. Pros is face. Jesus the Son and the Father were in face-to-face interaction with each other. What do you suppose they were discussing? The advent of the creation.
Yes.
And what would happen when man fell?
Yeah, everything.
See, Adam and Eve didn't hit God by surprise. Nothing hits God by surprise. You may have heard of something called open theism. Open theism is popular. I don't know if it's as popular as it was, but some evangelical seminaries promote this. I challenged some professors on it, I know. And you know, I don't know how they understand it. I don't quite understand how they get around it. But open theism essentially says God doesn't know the future and He is dependent upon us to help Him inform Him. Oh, good grief. We got a big problem. This verse here by itself refutes it, in my opinion. So in eternity past, so what John does, takes us past Genesis 1:1,
All the way to the...
all the way into eternity,
Yes.
before there ever was any creation at all. And said, while the Father and the Son were having a dialogue and they discussed the creation and what would happen after the fall, and I'm interjecting this, it's not in the text, but I believe this is part of it, is that what happened is when man and fall, they decided that Jesus would become man and that he would die, become the sacrificial atonement for the redemption of all of mankind.
They knew it.
Now, a little bit of a hobby horse. I don't mind contemporary music, but I don't like any music where the lyrics have not been examined theologically. And there's a song you probably like, I don't want to offend you, but there's a song that we sing a lot, and it goes, when Jesus was on the cross, he thought of me above all. Really? What was Jesus' primary obsession on the cross? My God, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
You think he was thinking about Vergil Schmidt?
No.
Not really. His concern was to be faithful to the Father, because in eternity past,
They knew.
the Son made a commitment. And it was to the Father. I will obey you to the
No
end.
matter what.
Which gives us a different inflection on John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish. Does God love the world? Absolutely.
Yes.
But he loves his Father and is obedient to his Father primarily, who says, what you've done when you came to the earth and you gave yourself as a sacrifice and shed your blood in remission of everybody's sin, is how I love the world. I redeemed them. And you know what? When we're redeemed, we're restored. Restored to what? To what God originally had in mind. See, all over the years people said, how do you find God's will for your life? You mean God hides it and he wants you on a hide and seek trip so you can waste a bunch of time trying to figure out what it is you're supposed to do? Here's what I always say. What do you like doing? What are you good at? Are you gifted at anything? Where do you think that came from? Does God make junk?
No.
No. So, if that's the case, find a way to use it for God's glory.
Yes, amen.
And then you won't work a day in your life. I'm a farmer. I wanted to be a farmer. But then God saved me. And when that happened, man, I all of a sudden got an interest in what I'm doing. And you know what? I am in heaven when I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Yes.
I'm 70 years old. They tell me I'm too old. I should go home and rest.
No.
Go to Florida and count pebbles on the beach. Waste.
No, never sit.
Collect souls.
All of that in John 1, verse 1. And much more. Okay. So the Word became flesh and he dwelt among us. Oh. I don't know where to go. There's just so much. So the Gospel of John presents the deity of Christ, and you know, some of the significant passages are found over in chapter 14 to 16, when we are introduced to Jesus talking about himself, and he says, I and the Father are one. In chapter 14, verse 16, he says, I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper. By the way, that's translated from the word allos, not heteros. You know what heterosexual is? The difference between a male and a female. Part of the human race, but different. Allos is one of the same kind, which means Jesus is of the same nature, same essence as God the Father. So it's another testimony that he is divine, that he is part of the triune Godhead. So I and the Father are one. That kind of thing, appears through this section. And that the Holy Spirit, when he comes, he too is our part of the triune Godhead. Same nature, same essence. And he indwells us and energizes us, empowers us. He illuminates our mind. He does all the things that we need done for our lives that we cannot do for ourselves. And then, of course, you've got the account of the passion there of Jesus going to the cross and so on. And in chapter 20 is one I referred to a little earlier about the empty tomb. Just now on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came early to the tomb while it was still dark and saw. There's the first word. The stone already taken away. So she ran and came to Peter and the other disciple whom Jesus loved and said to them, they have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they've laid him. So Peter and the other disciples went forth, and they were going to the tomb. The two were running together. The other disciple, which is John, ran faster than Peter and came to the tomb first. He stooping and looking in, he saw lepo. And I looked up and lost my place. And I have bifocals and I can't read.
Now you're back to 7.
Number 5, okay.
Oh, okay.
And stooping and looking into he saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. And so Simon Peter also came following him. He entered the tomb and he saw, theorizing, the linen wrappings lying there and the face cloths which had been on his head. So the other also came to the tomb first, entered. He saw and he believed. I'm part of a missionary denomination, so we emphasize foreign missions. And one of the themes is, why should anybody hear the gospel twice until everybody has heard it once? Now, I appreciate that sentiment, and I appreciate the emphasis. But I want to say to you, how many of us responded the first time you heard the gospel? Most of us don't. I sat under the gospel for 17 years before I heard it. And so it is. That's kind of human nature. John had to take 2 runs at it, and then he saw what this was all about, and that changed his life. And I'm pretty sure this is about out of time. Let me share with you my experience. I was in Israel, and I went to the Garden Tomb, which is the Protestant version of the crucifixion, on a Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. And the worship service was in progress, so I heard the speaker through the public address system. And when you go into the Garden Tomb, there are park benches, and you can sit all over the place, and wherever you sit, you can see down to where the tomb is and the wine press in front of you or to the side of it. Anyway, I got frustrated because I'm so used to the accoutrements of worship. I want to go into church, I want to see the pulpit, or some stand or something that identifies where the guy is going to talk from. I'm used to a worship leader, a worship team, or a choir, or something up there, that I can kind of follow. And I was sitting there, nothing. And I got frustrated. The first 15 minutes I was frustrated. I'm not as bright as Dr. Scott, so it takes me longer to pick up on some truths. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, the reason why I can worship is not because there's somebody up there leading the worship service, but because the tomb is empty.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen.
And so I have experienced, after that illumination, I've experienced worship in Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and Manila, and Cape Town, in Seoul, Korea, anywhere I've been, San Antonio, Texas, Dallas, Texas, no matter where I go, the worship is all the same.
Yes.
All of a sudden, everything has become unified and equal. Why? because the tomb is empty.
Yes,
All right, I'm gonna stop. Your brother, I don't know how to end this.
Well, a prayer.
You're the resident pro. I'll let you conclude. And then, say something nice about me to Dr. Spock. Thank you, y'all been great. Thank you.